The word adjunct means someone with lesser status, or someone or something that provides assistance. Computers have been helpful adjuncts to people in almost every line of work. I am only an adjunct, so I don't work as many hours and get paid less than the full-time employees. It's not the greatest car in the world, but it will serve as a decent adjunct to the new car we bought last year. Adjunct, someone with lesser status. The word assiduous means very dedicated and determined, one who does things with great care. Fred was the most assiduous student I'd ever known. He was rewarded with the top grades in the class. Runners need to be assiduous in their training if they want to be successful. That cat is an assiduous groomer. He's always cleaning his fur. Assiduous, dedicated and determined.
Aggrandize. The word aggrandize means to expand something or make it bigger, to exaggerate or make more important than it actually is. Kids have active imaginations and sometimes like to aggrandize their experiences to make them more interesting and colorful. Harry, for example, recently flew as a passenger in an airplane, but he's been telling everyone that he actually flew it himself. Most people understand that he's simply aggrandizing the experience, but every now and then someone believes him. He's a kid, though, so it's not a big problem. Adults who tell such tall tales are a different matter, because they should really know better. Aggrandize, to increase or to make something greater.
Anthropocentric. The word anthropocentric means believing humans are central to and above everything in the universe. Jacob is extremely anthropocentric and doesn't think that animals and other creatures matter at all. Not to be anthropocentric, but I'm less worried about hungry bears than I am about hungry people. Scientists can't afford to be anthropocentric if they want to understand how nature really works. Anthropocentric, believing humans to be above all forms of life.
Adjourn. The word adjourn means to postpone to a later time or to move to another room during a meeting or in court. After 2 hours, we still hadn't reached a decision, and so the boss decided to adjourn the meeting and give everyone a break for the day. We'll have to resume the meeting next week, though, and there's no way we'll be leaving until we've accomplished our goals. I'm glad we adjourned, though, because now I'll have time to relax and not think about these ridiculous meetings for a few days. Adjourn, to postpone to a later time. Advocacy. The word advocacy means support, help, or the act of fighting for something or someone. In our political culture, there are lots of advocacy groups around who try to urge people to take an interest or show some concern for all sorts of issues. Some groups pay lots of attention to environmental issues and try to get political leaders and the general public to consider issues like climate change or nuclear waste. Other groups use their advocacy to argue one side or another on issues like war or abortion. In a democratic society, advocacy plays an important role in shaping debate. By listening to different arguments and positions, we are likely to gain a better understanding of the issues. Advocacy, active support. Arid. The word arid means dry, barren, lacking in rainfall, useless or dull. In an extremely arid climate like the desert, almost nothing is able to grow. The plants that do live there are usually very small and are able to conserve and store what little rainfall the region happens to get. Large parts of the Earth's surface are considered arid, including hot deserts like Death Valley, California, as well as polar deserts, where all the water is permanently frozen. If people living in non-arid regions don't use their water resources carefully, they risk turning their own land into dry, arid wastelands. Arid, dry, barren.
The word absorb means to get someone's full interest. It also means to suck up or take in. The young man didn't hear the phone ringing because he was so fully absorbed in his weird hobby of building houses of cards. It would be hard to distract him or pull his attention away from the project because he concentrated so hard and seemed to be giving every ounce of attention to it. His schoolwork was another matter entirely, however. He is never absorbed by his math or history classes, which is probably why he's not doing so well in them. Another usage for absorb is, I thought the thick sponge would absorb the entire spill, but instead it just splashed the liquid around and made more of a mess. Absorb, to keep, to hold. The word acclivity means an upward slope, as of ground. My bicycle ride ended when I hit the steep acclivity and could not go any farther. The children ran up the grassy acclivity and rolled down again. The path led the hikers to the foot of an enormous rocky acclivity, which they decided they'd climb after a night's rest. Acclivity, upward slope. The word acetic means sour, acid-like, related to vinegar. When Angela dropped the bottle of vinegar, a bitter acetic smell filled the kitchen. The salad dressing didn't have enough oil in it, so it was too acidic for my taste. Acetic acid can be used to remove warts. Acetic, sour, acid-like.
Armistice. The word armistice means a temporary ceasefire between warring parties just before a peace treaty is made or a lull in the battle. After fighting for months, the two warring groups reached an armistice. According to the terms of the deal, they would stop fighting each other for several months while their leaders worked to reach a permanent peace settlement. If their talks had not been successful, the armistice might not have lasted, and they would have been back at each other's throats before long. Fortunately, the armistice was a first step toward friendship for the tribes, and before long they forgot why they had been fighting in the first place. Armistice, truce, temporary ceasefire. Acidulous. The word acidulous means sour or sharp in taste or manner. The acidulous taste of a lemon caused the young boy to scrunch up his face. The sour taste wasn't as bad as he'd expected, and he liked things that were tart in flavor, so he continued to eat the lemon. In addition to lemons, he liked other acidulous fruits like kiwi and grapefruit. He wasn't a big fan of salty foods, but he definitely enjoyed things that were tangy. Acidulous, sour, sarcastic. Archipelago. The word archipelago means a group of islands or a sea that contains a group of islands. The Philippines is a country that's made up of an archipelago of about 7,000 different islands. It's one of the world's largest collections of islands, and it's part of the much larger Malay archipelago, which consists of more than 20,000 islands. The world's largest archipelago can be found in the northern polar region, where more than 36,000 islands make up the Canadian Arctic archipelago. Scotland and England are also archipelagos, with many smaller islands dotted along the coast of the mainland. Archipelago, a group of islands. Amorous. The word amorous refers to being loving, full of love, having to do with sexual love. Although it's nice to see a happy couple, Mr. and Mrs. Dick's amorous activity seemed inappropriate in the middle of the Children's Museum on Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is usually thought of as an amorous holiday when couples express their affection for each other with gifts and love letters and chocolates. For people who aren't in a relationship, though, Valentine's Day can often be a bit irritating since they don't have anyone to share intimacy or romance. Couples who aren't feeling really amorous toward each other might also dislike Valentine's Day because it might remind them of how little affection they have for each other. Amorous. Moved by love, especially sexual love.